Okay, good afternoon. I'm going to call the meeting to order, the regular call board meeting of the Board of Trustees, Lufkin Independent School District is called to order at 5:15. Notice of the meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Chapter 551, and a quorum of the board is present. I'm going to ask Mr. Caesar to lead our invocation. If everyone would please rise, and then we'll follow up with our pledges.
Let's pray. Our Father and our God in heaven, we come to you in prayer, just thankful that you've given us this opportunity to serve this community. We're thankful for all the blessings that you've provided for us in this life. Sometimes we identify them, but sometimes we overlook them. But Father, for all the good things and the blessings you've allowed us to have, we're grateful. Most of all, we're thankful for Jesus. We're thankful for him dying on the cross and all that we benefit as a result of that. Be with us in this meeting. Help us make decisions that are not in our own interest, but in the interest of the students, community, faculty, staff, and parents. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Now for pledges.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, I'd like to welcome our visitors and see a lot of our school staff that are here. I hope everyone's had a chance to take a little bit of time off and have had a good first couple of weeks of the summer break. Appreciate everyone being here. We're going to move on to bullet point 5, comments from the audience. We have none, so we'll continue to move on. I would encourage everyone that this was going to be a long meeting, so I hope that you've taken your vitamins, eaten your Wheaties, and those types of things. But we're going to start off with review of planned finance with Doug Witt and Samco Capital. Mr. Witt, thank you for being here.
You bet. It's good to be back.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate the opportunity to be here. I have a report for you before we ask for board action. So with that, I'll jump right in. Feel free to stop me at any time with questions. So anytime we start in the authorization of the sale and issuance of bonds, we go back to what we discussed during the bond election. There were two propositions, $98,250,000, $42 million, both A and B passed. The taxable value assumption would be $3.2 billion in 26-27, and we're on target for that. I'll show you that in a moment. And to remain constant, we don't need changes to your taxable value or growth of your value to implement this particular bond program. The interest rates were assumed to be 4.75%. I'll show you interest rates in a moment. We intend to be below budget with respect to interest rate and interest cost. We assume to issue these in 3 installments. So you have a multitude of projects. They take time to construct. We typically issue bonds in installments as we implement the construction program. And then the estimated impact was $7.29 per month on the average homeowner. For us, that was 17.5 cents increase to the INS tax rate on an average home of $190,000, and then you take out $140,000 homestead exemption, and it results in $7.29 per month. All of those parameters, everything we discussed financially pre-election, are on target, and we're going to be able to deliver that we promised to our voters. Your recent bond ratings are AAA based upon the permanent school fund guarantee. We have made application for that. We expect to be a permanent school fund guaranteed again with AAA rating. You have excellent underlying credit ratings in this district, which is an independent review of the credit quality of the district as a whole. So you sit in a very good position there at AA2. And the analyst cite strong available fund balance and cash, manageable fixed costs, slightly declining enrollment, and below average median resident incomes. All of those go into that credit quality.
Doug, can I ask a question?
Yes.
2 slides ago, going back one. I went back to your presentation at our facilities committee with our community, and that rate there is better than what you were showing at that time.
Right.
Was that intentional or?
Yes, that was intentional. That is intentional because what we do is pre-election, we start with a conservative budget as we move, and we were just talking about it a minute ago, how long the process is to get to the point where we can even lock in an interest rate. Sometimes that's a 2-year process. So 2 years ago, when you start putting in preliminary numbers, you're like, what are interest rates going to be when it comes time to sell? And so we start with a very conservative. As we're getting close to locking in some portion of interest rates this summer, then we can get more narrow in that gap between what the actual rate is expected and what our conservative pre-sale, so pre-election rates, pre-sale rates, and then actual rates.
And then one other question, and this could possibly be answered later, but you said assumed to be in 3 installments. Could you tell us at some point, doesn't have to be now, maybe it's later in the presentation, when you think that may?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Generally speaking, we issue bonds about once a year when it's a multi-year, multi-phase, multi-project, multi-installment process. We tend to track about once a year, and the reason for that is we get data once a year. So we get a certified value this summer. We have a preliminary value. We'll get a certified value, and then we'll issue bonds. We'll wait 12 months. You'll spend some, but not all of the bond proceeds that we issued, and then we will replenish that construction fund budget in 12 months when we get another certified value. And I tell people all the time, I get smarter every year that goes by, not because I really get smarter, but because I get more data with which to structure the bond payments. And so as you do it in a multi-year, multi-phase project, it's about every 12 months. And again, that coincides with receiving data from your appraisal district.
I have a question about that slide, about the ratings, before we move on. That on the Moody's underlying credit rating, when did they do that? Because, we had 2 years where we ran a deficit budget, and then we've been much better since then. So are they basing that on something that's more current than that time period previously?
Yeah, so when we get Moody's is a national company, and international really, but a national company. So they provide credit ratings for school districts throughout the United States. In the state of Texas, there's almost always 2 statements that they make. Number one is that we have strong available fund balance and cash, because Texas school districts carry 3 months plus of general fund balance, which is bigger than any other state in the way they manage their budgets. We do it because we have significant year in, year out changes that can impact our operating fund. Okay, so we carry pretty big fund balance, and they're rating you not just against your neighbor here in East Texas, but against, say, a school district in Colorado or a school district in Illinois. Okay, so, and then the other thing is fixed costs, which is a debt service as an example of a fixed cost. They usually talk about us being elevated in that category because in the state of Texas, we fund school facility and school facility infrastructure via voted bonds, and we do that more so than other states. Okay, so two things that we normally get is very good carryover fund balance, elevated debt levels, and you're not much different. This AA2 was put on a rating prior to this bond election, so it was about your history. We will go through this process again. We will go through the rating process, and you'll see language, and we will gauge how it changes from what it was several years ago. We're not anticipating, there's nothing about this bond program that I think would be characterized as out of the norm. So given your improvements, your rebound, if you will,
Right.
in your operations, I would anticipate a continued forward of that AA2 credit rating. There will be some tweaks to what they say below. I think they will say continued the strong available fund balance, the manageable debt service. I anticipate them to say elevated because they say that on 90% of the districts that we take to Moody's in the state of Texas.
Okay, thank you.
Which, said another way, if you want to say it another way, you had gotten to the point where it had been so long since you had done prior bond issues and they've been so small and you paid down that you have gotten below the average in outstanding bonds carried by school districts for your size of tax base and size of population. Okay, so we talked about the interest rate pre-election, pre-sale. Here's a look at the graph, the National Bond Buyers Index. Over to the far right of the graph, it's 4.72%. That is disconnected from what a Texas AAA permanent school fund bond, but this is a national index that shows the trend. When you look at the low, it's 2020 during the pandemic. When you look at the high, it was the Wall Street meltdown and liquidity crisis in 2008. The bar running across the middle is our historical averages. We spiked up and then have come back down towards the average, which is what we would expect. Anytime we get way below, we trend back. Anytime we get way above, we trend back. But we have a normal functioning school bond market. You will have plenty of neighbors in the bond market this summer. Most school districts in Texas are waiting for their certified value at the end of July to then enter the market in August. We will be the same schedule as that. We're anticipating very sound, very functioning financial markets that we have, including interest rates that again have come back down and now have been in that 4.75 range for several months. Okay, taxable value. Again, pre-election, we were looking for $3.2 billion. We have that. We are on pace exactly as we planned. Again, we don't need continued growth out of your tax base to be able to absorb these bonds and implement your construction program. You have a history on average of growth, although we've had some years where there's been a decline in value, but overall you have a trend northbound in your certified taxable value. Your INS tax rate and fund balance history. We have a very healthy INS fund balance in the INS fund in column 3. That will be our hold card going forward as we implement the finance program to go along with the construction program. You're in great shape out of the box. And then again, I put in italics because you haven't said it yet, but normally when we go to voters and we tell the voters that it's going to be a certain tax impact, we usually get there in year 1, okay? And if there's no objection to that, we will structure this initial bond program into that number. We will amortize principal early because of that number, and that's what our goal is. If there's any change to that, please share it with me, and so forth. So, summary of the plan of finance. This is installment number 1. It's $60,250,000 is the suggestion to you. $33,250,000 out of Proposition A, $27 million out of Proposition B. This is a big chunk of change, if you will, coming out of the first installment. It's more money than you will spend in the next 12 months, but it's also the amount of money that we can lock in the interest rate, structure the bond payments into your tax base, and set the stage for implementing smaller installments as we go over time. We plan a negotiated method of sale where we select underwriters up front and negotiate with them for market-driven interest rates. The type of bond is a traditional fixed-rate tax-exempt bond. You say, well, why do we put this in there? That's been the kind of norm all along. For this district, we have a technique that we may want to implement over the next 2 installments that provides additional flexibility to the district, provides additional interest rate benefits, etc. That is not a part of this first installment plan of finance, but I do want you to know that for an infrequent issuer of bonds with limited optional redemption flexibility, we're likely to pull a tool out of the toolbox that will benefit your district. And I have numerous districts that are your size in various regions of the state that have implemented those tools, and it's been to their benefit. So the bond structure is a level net debt service with a future drop-off. In debt service, you'll see that picture momentarily. The amortization length is 30 years with an option to prepay in 10 years. That additional tool that we may implement on future installments will actually accelerate that optional redemption and that amortization. Credit enhancement, permanent school fund guarantee. We made the application on your behalf. We expect it even with the very nice underlying credit ratings that you have. Taxable value, $3.2 billion, assumed to remain constant. If our values go up, if we get some sort of industry in here, it'll change the bond model to the better, but we're not counting on that. No use of the INS fund balance. I showed you that's a big number. That's our hold card. If we ever need to use it, we will. It can only be used for the repayment of voted bonds. So if we ever do, it's not a bad use. It is on purpose. And then we're not doing any refundings or early redemptions part of the analysis. And then the 17.5 cents that I mentioned earlier.
I have one, I'm sorry.
Yes?
On the 10-year optional redemption, if our tax base increases, how does that affect us with that?
So that means over the next 10 years, we cannot redeem these bonds early.
Right.
You have some outstanding bonds that we can redeem early. We would start with them. But in reality, next year in the next smaller installment, I'm probably going to be recommending something that's called an adjustable rate bond with an early prepayment provision. So that can be anywhere from 1, 2 to 3 years. You issue the bonds in standard amortization look, but with an early prepayment of a couple of years. But we only lock in the interest rate for 2 years. The good part of that is that it's on the short end of the yield curve, as we call it in a technical term, which is generally lower interest rates. But you would incur some risk that we have to remarket that bond if we don't pay it off early. And we're doing that. We have like 5 districts in the state of Texas that we're doing that for this summer. So we intend to have some early prepayment flexibility associated with the future installments and with your existing bonds outstanding. But this bond is the most traditional look that you can have. 30-year amortization for new construction with a 10-year option to prepay. Yes?
Can we not, there's no way to do an earlier prepay option if rates adjust and our base goes up? Our taxable value goes up? Is there any other, that's it?
Yes, we have to look at it holistically.
Okay.
With this series of bonds, if this was our only bond, it would be pretty rigid. It would be a 30-year amortization with a 10-year option to prepay. On a 10-year option to prepay, it doesn't mean you do nothing.
Right.
You can set aside money in anticipation of the 10-year date, or you can do what we call a defeasance, which is set the money aside early for that 10-year anniversary, okay? And there's technicals with that, but that's another option. For us, over the next 2 years, if we get, let's suppose, as an example, we get a big bump to our tax base, okay? Well, the next installment, instead of amortizing $20 million over 30 years, we may amortize $20 million over 5 years.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's flexibility number one. We'll have a second shot at that flexibility with the third installment. And then both of those installments are likely to have the early prepayment provision. And then your outstanding bonds, we can target and pay them off early as well.
Okay. So the first one always kind of looks like this, the first installment.
Yeah, for my game plan,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. I was just curious.
No, it's a very good question because
Okay.
these models that look like this, they're on spreadsheets and they're on graphs and they look static. These are really dynamic financial models in terms of repayment ability, refundability, issuance time, issuance amounts. I'm showing you colored bars there that show principal and interest. Again, if something changes next year when I get 1 year smarter in my lifetime, then we will change that structure accordingly and have a plan of finance for installment number 2. So what it looks like now, you have the outstanding bonds in yellow. You have the first one, it looks like we're going to go with light purple, and $60,250,000. And then Series 27 is $50 million, and Series 28 is $30 million, and that is dark blue and then a lighter shade of purple. And then your INS tax rate, again, just shows that we're flat with a small drop off in 2044. And again, we don't need growth in the tax base to be able to pay these bonds as we move forward. We okay? Okay. Any questions on this? Again, just to repeat, This is not a static model. It is a dynamic model with the first bond when it issues is relatively static because it is a traditional bond. Unlike home mortgages, when you do a home mortgage, you can start prepaying on that on day one. In our municipal bond market that is a national bond market, the standard is for 20, 25, and 30-year amortizations to have a 10-year prepayment start after 10 years. All right, so if we implement this plan to the far right, using $60,250,000 from some from Proposition A, some from Proposition B, it'll leave us that $80 million that would, in my plan as of today, be issued in a $50 million installment and a $30 million installment. And then you can see that we're pulling roughly $33,250,000 and $27 million, leaving $65 million and $15 million for those projects. We do not anticipate when we deposit that money into the construction fund that we're ever going to get thin on your construction fund balance as you're doing draws. We can pull these bonds off the shelf at any time, but I think we have more than enough money for the next 12 months, and we're locking in a sizable portion of the total of $140 million. So the preliminary schedule of events, review the plan of finance tonight. We're asking you to adopt the order authorizing the issuance of that first installment of bonds and delegating authority to the administration to complete the sale and transaction of those bonds. We anticipate doing that the week of October 3rd, where it says bond pricing and lock-in interest rate. That'll come after we receive our certified value in July 24th of this year, so that once we get that final value, we can structure these bond payments. See that big blue bar in 27, the second column from the left? That number will be structured according to the tax base as it comes in its final format. Okay? And so that is the game plan. If we sell bonds the first week in August, we will close September 2nd. That's when the money will go into your construction fund. That's your money. You invest it. You earn interest on it, pending the payment of construction payouts that you get over time. We are subject to arbitrage rebate, and what that fancy term means is that if we borrow at 350, which we're not, it'll be in the fours, but let's say we borrow at 350, but we earn at 4%, the 0.5% over and above that, the federal government wants that back because they're the one that grant us the tax exempt status. So we will be monitoring interest earnings over time for that which we get to keep and can be applied towards construction, and that which we need to rebate, which could be zero or it could be millions of dollars depending on market conditions as we move forward.
What would be a conservative estimate on this first sale of what we could earn in interest?
I think you're earning now a little less than 4%. You're earning a little less than 4%, and you're going to be borrowing at more than 4%. So we're in what's called a negative arbitrage environment. We're not anticipating this first installment of reaching that. But it is, again, a marathon, not a sprint. So if a year into this you haven't spent the money and short-term interest rates go back up, then that's when the arbitrage rebate can occur. When we do those second and third installments, particularly if we utilize one of the techniques that I'm talking about, it could have a very low bond yield, which is below your short-term earning rate, because we're going to be borrowing on the short term and we're going to be earning on the short term, and those could be a difference on those particular series of bonds. Okay? Any other questions on the timing? So the order that you have, Marcus Dietz is here. He's with Oric Law Firm. He serves as your bond counsel, your legal counsel. He's the expert in all matters related to state law and the issuance of school bonds. He's prepared the order for you that, again, authorizes the issuance of these bonds and delegates authority to the administration to complete that. And that order is before you. There is a second resolution. You may or may not need it. It is a belts and suspenders approach. It doesn't require you to do anything, but it protects you if you do. If you have a need to spend any money prior to September 2nd, that is a hard cost, then this resolution allows you to reimburse your general fund for that expenditure prior to receiving the money on September 2nd. We also do it, it's not required by federal tax law, but you may have soft cost expenditures, I think you do in this district, have plenty of soft cost expenditures that have occurred and will occur prior to September 2nd, 2026. You can reimburse those without a reimbursement resolution, but the reimbursement resolution just reinforces that matter. So that is also on your agenda as a second item for today's motions. So the motion is up top. As far as I'm concerned, you can say move to approve the order as presented, since the language is before you, or if you prefer, you're welcome to read all of Marcus's language there. And I blame him for the language. He's doing it to protect you as a district from a legal standpoint.
Doug, just so you're aware, our agenda, that is item number 7. So after you're through speaking, that order is number 7 on our agenda, and the reimbursement resolution is number 8. So
Okay.
following along.
Okay, perfect. Are there any questions on the presentation material leading up to that agenda item? Y'all had very good questions. I appreciate those and look forward to getting off to a very good start on our bond program.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
Well, I'll make the motion to approve the order authorizing the issuance, sale, and delivery of Lufkin Independent School District's unlimited tax school building bonds, series 2026.
A second?
Keep reading it.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, respond with aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. Now, we're looking at item number 8. That one's shorter. You want-
I'll read that one too. I'll move to approve the resolution declaring intention to reimburse project expenditures.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, respond with aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, so item 8 passes unanimously as well. Thank you again, Doug. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks, Doug.
Thank
for
you.
hard work on this. Thank you. Okay, we told you it was gonna be a long meeting, so now it's item number 9, public hearing to discuss the 26-27 budget. The board will now convene into a public hearing to discuss the 2026-2027 budget. I'm gonna ask Mr. Heath Weddington to lead the public hearing. We're going into convening at 5:43 p.m. Starting.
All right, so I'm going to direct you to page 44, starts the packet for the proposed budget. Today I'm just going to recap kind of some of the things we've been working on this past couple of months. I'm also going to review the comparison of this current 25-26 budget to the proposed budget for 26-27. And also we're going to go through what that proposed budget looks like for 26-27. So the first thing we direct you to is that taxpayer impact statement. This statement is based on our current year's M&O and INS tax rate, while also taking into account the potential increase that is related to the bond. As we've talked before, these rates will adjust potentially in August once we get to that point of actually setting that tax rate. So this is just all still preliminary data as far as those tax rates. And so right now we are projecting an overall general fund revenue of $82,713,000. This is an overall decrease from last year's budget. It's increase of last year's budget by, or decrease of last year's budget by 0.8%. And so this year we have really continued to match our projection for our campus enrollments as well as our district overall needs. And so through reducing some of our FTEs from the 25-26 school year, we've been able to build capacity to help support staff raises as well as other pay adjustments that Dr. Sparks will be outlining later in the discussion of the 26-27 compensation plan. So on page 48, you can see the comparison of our current year budget to our budget from this last year. Does anybody have any specific questions on that? Are you allowed to pull it up?
Can we project it by any chance, or?
Do you have a copy of the?
Of what?
board report itself?
Computers are,
Our computers are going
they're all
off.
going out.
Okay, we can print them out, or do you
And
wanna,
I can't use, yep, do not touch your computer.
You have a PDF,
I've got it, I can print it out.
I'll go print. There we go.
There it is, Debbie.
She's under pressure too, she's everybody's watching.
I think if you download it off that website, it messes up too, so.
Yeah.
Thank
Have
you, Jack.
permission, that's it.
I'll just stay here.
Okay, it's
Okay.
further down than
So
that.
if you'll scroll down,
Page 48.
yes, page 48 is where we're at. Keep going farther. Right here. So this is the comparison of our 25-26 budget to our proposed budget for 26-27.
So,
It is.
the most important part is the bottom.
Yes, and so as you can see, both the budget last year and this year are both balanced budgets for the general fund. So if there's no questions, we'll move forward.
hold on, yeah.
Okay.
I would guess the majority of the changes are related to salaries.
Most of it is related to salaries. We had the school bus order that was budgeted in the 199 originally that we moved over, so that is part of the reduction for the function 34, but the majority of it's in salaries. And then there are some costs due to the election that, we had to increase the budget for to make up for and various things
Right.
like that.
Yeah, I had looked, ahead of time when I was reviewing it and wondered about the transportation, and so that's because we bought school buses this year.
Yes,
We should have a little bit less maintenance going forward with new buses that we're getting in
Yes.
the bonds too.
yes. And there also, part of that large increase is because we had a lot more field trips that were this year, and so those costs, which get reimbursed through campus billing, is we had to increase the budgets to compensate, or we had to basically move funds around that we're going to use to compensate for that.
Okay,
So
okay.
that's the reason why there was a large decrease there. It's not because we're cutting the budget, just because of the bond or the bus purchases and then those field trip costs that are kind of an unknown, if you will.
Right.
We budget a small amount, but we never really know how much the campus is going to utilize those.
Sure.
Field
Okay,
trip
thanks.
costs.
Hey, we're gonna take,
Yeah, let's just pause, go ahead.
We gotta
Let's
get
pause
that.
and we're gonna get the.
we need copies.
Okay, I'll go print out copies real quick.
This is a.
Or is that a copy of it?
We have Janae's computer
Okay.
right now, so.
Let's everybody get copies.
Let's just
It's
pause.
too important to not have it in front of us,
Does he have copies or I need to print them?
but we need copies.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, everybody.
Uh,
Technology goes down. That's about how we. Sorry, I just.
No, I
See that up there on that
I
screen.
can't see it.
Oh, there it is.
Okay, where's the, where we took it out? I looked at, we weren't taking it to she's shooting like, but I want to come back week that I know. It's Monday, just a little short. She's So the sixth is the day I need to know.
Yes.
No, just the sixth. Yeah, that's the day, yeah. So I have on here, I'm just thinking for on that Thursday.
Is it the truth and taxation? That's a brown. That's the wrong order, I think. I'll send you.
Oh, you signed up for something.
Unless you don't.
No, I do, well, I mean, if we need to meet that day, we can, but I'm
I
not
was
doing
wondering,
it.
I had a doctor's appointment in Houston too.
Okay, so let's do that. Yeah. So, let's do it on Thursday. No, that week actually would be so much better, so. Because I get in there and then have that call back.
Seventh and eighth? Seventh and eighth?
Yeah, and I'm open both of those days all day, so we're gonna read before the 10th.
Yeah, so I want to.
Well, I get to get happy, so. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna try to open you. So this is why Josh won't give me a cell phone because he knows that he's like, hey, come over here.
I'm about to share it with you.
Yeah. Look, it's Sadie to get.
I don't think I did.
Okay.
You might have been using my laptop.
Okay.
Josh, just for a clue about what's going on, mine was fine when I sat down and when I was scrolling. That's when it started.
Mine did it last month, last meeting too.
Yeah,
So
I
there
don't
we
know.
go.
I think it's all stemming, there was it looks like on that one, there was an update that failed on that one.
Yes, it
Yeah.
And then the video started failing from there, so.
Sorry, he was in her, wonderful presentation.
I was saying, like, first,
So it's nothing to y'all.
Yeah. Yeah, Mine did it again. You know, MacBooks never fail. Yeah. I was trying to get a rise out of her.
And you can't control it.
tell you what, I had to replace my
So, I mean, my last go over there, see Allison like
room for the
Yeah.
and so I got a new one.
Yeah.
So I get like that. They rarely get worse. So, and they do have a key on like where you can't just put it in. They will restrict. That's where
That's why they don't like it.
yeah.
Thingy won't go. It's about to kill tonight. Hold on, it's still on. It's still on. I just got there.
Today's not.
It's not.
And now we're ready.
It's out of memory.
Easy choice.
We're ready when you are, Matt.
Oh, we got it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're not.
Yeah. I did. Well, I'll just pull it up from
So,
Well, they've got paper copies tonight. Huh?
Global meeting is what she's saying.
Oh, okay.
Okay. You're hot. Yeah, your legs work. Hold on 1 second. You might have another.
okay, we're on. Everybody ready? Reconvene? Okay, we're on page 40.
On 48, yes.
Okay.
So, were there any other questions y'all had about the changes from last year, this year?
sorry if you mentioned it a while ago, but the federal programs increase.
So that is because we have got a couple of additional grants this year coming up that it's gonna have indirect costs tied to that. And so we're able to collect more of that indirect cost locally.
All right.
So if y'all, we'll move on to page 49. This is the proposed budget for 26-27. As you can see, the general fund, the debt service are both balanced. The food service is going to operate at a deficit this year, and this is an attempt to start spending some of those funds down that we have been accumulating so that we are getting below that threshold that's required by the Texas Department of Agriculture. And so part of her plan this year is that she has identified some aging equipment throughout the district that she's going to go through and start replacing. That's going to take up the vast majority of that. And then she's also putting into place plans for long term to kind of make sure that those funds don't creep back up again.
Did y'all understand what he just said?
Yes, I did.
Okay, just making sure, that's kind of a big deal.
Well, what's the purpose of spending them down? Like, what benefit is that to us?
So the Texas Department of Agriculture, through that federal grant, they have essentially a cap, if you will, of how much fund balance you're allowed to accumulate.
Okay.
And once you get past that cap, you got to start putting in plans to spend those funds down. And so we have been past that cap. And then last year, with that change in fiscal year, it further increased it. And so this is the start of that plan to get those funds back down into where where we're supposed to be as far as our fund balance is concerned for the food service.
Awesome.
And then on pages 50 and 51 is just the breakdown of the different object code levels for the revenues and expenses, just kind of showing you where we are as far as state versus local, and then our salaries, contract services, supplies, those types of expenses. And so as you can see, our salaries for the general fund are right at 80%, and so we're on track for being right there where we want to be on our salaries.
Will we get a breakdown of equipment being purchased to make up the 811,000?
We can.
Okay, I'm just curious.
I know she had talked to me earlier this year about looking at replacing the freezer in the actual warehouse itself where they keep a lot of their cold goods. And I think that alone was almost $500,000. So, but we can definitely get y'all a breakdown of what all she's planning on doing.
Okay.
Is there any other questions?
Okay.
All right, that's it.
Okay.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, Heath. We will now close the public hearing at 5:57 p.m. Appreciate your hard work on that, Heath. And we'll now move to item number 10, administrative reports, information only. Dr. Hockenberry.
I have nothing to add, except I want to highlight that we are again adopting a balanced budget when we get to that item. That's still significant in today's environment. Schools are struggling financially, and we can stay balanced and continue to pay our people and do the things we want to do. That's a real positive step in a very good direction.
I've sent Dr. Hockenberry several messages this week where other boards are passing deficit budgets, so that's happening. So again, we appreciate the hard work on that. We'll move to the business item, our business office, Mr. Weathington. Yeah.
Our business office reports are going to be again on page 53. On pages 54 through 60, we have the revenues and expenses through May, the monthly investment report through May, as well as tax collections through April. If you are looking at the revenue versus expenses, it may appear that our revenues are lower than what our expenses are, but with our fiscal year end, we actually will have three more months worth of state aid and property tax collections that we will be collecting, whereas our expenses will be cut off at the end of June. And so those will come back into a line as we're collecting those payments after the fiscal year end. And then on pages 61 through 62, we have our Safe Cycle 1 and Cycle 2 grants. The only changes here are just the updated expenditures as we continue to finish out those projects and make payments for those services. And then on page 63, we have the update for the capital outlay. The updates this month are the Dunbar AC units that we are installing in the hallways has been complete. And then our Brook Hollow sign is slated to be finished in early July, and then the middle school driveway is about halfway through. And so with our fiscal year coming in June, at the end of June, depending on where the Brook Hollow sign project and the middle school driveway project end, we could end up having to essentially shift some of that into the next year because of the timing of those payments. But if that happens, we'll bring the amendments to move those funds into the next year to y'all at that point in time.
And that project will be finished before school starts?
Yes, they're both supposed to be finished before school starts.
You can see the middle school drive, it's half the floor is done, it looks, you can tell how good it's gonna, one look and the great function it's gonna provide, it's looking really impressive.
Anybody have any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Weatherby? Okay, we'll move to Administrative Services Office, Dr. Spikes.
Yeah, my report to begin on page 64. Our HR Services Informational Report contains any recent hires, resignations, vacancy information, and on-the-job employee injuries. Our Support Services Update begins on page 67 of the packet, and I just wanted to draw your attention to the Student Nutrition Services addition. They received recognition and commendation from the Texas Department of Agriculture for earning USDA Foods Challenge Award and for its outstanding efforts to maximize USDA Foods entitlement utilization. Schools that utilize at least 95% of their allocated entitlement receive special recognition from TDA for their commitment to efficient program management and resource utilization. So congrats to Ms. Kalk and her team.
Okay. Any questions? Mr. Spike, Dr. Spike? Okay, we'll move to item number 11, approval of the consent agenda. Several routine items are being grouped into a single consent agenda. Any board member may request that any or all the items on the consent agenda be removed and considered as a separate item. If no such request is made, all items on the consent agenda may be approved by a single action motion, second vote of the Board of Trustees. And instead of going through each of these, anybody have any questions about any of these?
Dan, what was the cause of the low attendance waiver?
I had that one highlighted. I was actually gonna ask for more information
Was
on
it
that
at
one.
Hurdy?
So the one at Hurdy, apparently there was some sicknesses going around on campus, and because of the needs of some of the students there, their parents chose to keep them at home versus
Okay,
exposing
exposing
them to that.
to
Yes.
something, okay.
Yes, so that's the reason why that one is.
Yeah.
very low.
Yeah, just, yeah.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions
I
about
see, I
any of
didn't know.
those items?
Right. Oh, right. Yeah. It was just a-
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as outlined.
So move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, respond with aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, the consent agenda passes unanimously. We'll move to item number 12, discussion of possible board action to purchase 19 school buses using district fund balance to be reimbursed from proceeds of the 2026 bond sale in accordance with the passing of Proposition A on the May 2nd, 2026 bond election. So Dr. Spike.
As it reads, we are requesting permission to spend the fund balance to purchase buses. Mr. Burton and his team actually got quotes, and they want to go with international buses. And so they would like to order 19 buses, and I believe it's 13 of our 77 passenger buses, and then 3 of the 46 passenger buses, and then a 14 passenger bus, 3 of those as well, so for a total of 19. Obviously, it'll get our fleet to where it needs to be so that we can get that annual rotation.
Mr. Burke, will you mind sharing with the board briefly what you just shared about the warranty?
Okay, so,
And so how that was part of the factor with your.
so international, really the only difference in the international and the Thomas is the body. It comes with the Cummins. It's got the 60-month, 100,000 mile warranty on the engine. The Allison transmissions is an 84-month unlimited mile warranty. 24-month bumper to bumper unlimited miles. International offers a 24-month unlimited mile tow warranty, so if a bus breaks down out of town, they'll tow it back for us. Air conditioning is actually a 36-month after market warranty, so it means the air conditioning will be an aftermarket. Air conditioning is 36-month warranty, where Thomas does not offer that. And one of our biggest expenses right now is the ACs on the buses.
That's good news.
And on the 14 passenger, they're a non-CDL bus, and they're actually a full-size bus. And I was talking to Dr. Spikes about it. We can actually build our own drivers. We'll take some of our monitors and open up a position in between a monitor and a driver, offer a little more pay. If they can drive that bus, talk them into getting their CDL to drive a bigger bus.
Move approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor, call it aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously, and Dr. Hockenberry just whispered that's a big deal. And it is.
Excited.
That's good news.
I've got a quick question. Before we had talked about like an activities bus or something along those lines, like not a charter bus, but something that was like a step up from just a yellow dog school bus. Is that on the horizon at all? Are we gonna
It's
look
on
into
the
that?
horizon, it's not in this purchase. We needed to tackle the seatbelt issue,
Sure.
more for the, but it's definitely on the horizon.
Okay.
We're trying to get through a couple of things, but it's a need and a desire that we're working toward rapidly.
So is it like one that we have a wrap on or something? Okay.
And do we have an expected delivery date?
So with your approval, we'll be able to get 13 in September.
September, for the big ones, 13 of them will be here in September. The 3 special needs buses will be here in October. And the 14 passenger buses, this will be the first 3 that they ever build. So we will get those in 4 to 6 months.
Good job, Mr. Bird.
So we'll get those for Christmas. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move to item number 13, discussion of possible board action of the 2026-27 employee compensation plan, and its turn, Dr. Spice.
All right, so I am here to present this year's compensation plan to you. As you all very well know, we overhauled our compensation system last year. And so what we did is we signed on with TASB for our maintenance program, which would allow them to go back and revisit all of our pay structures to make sure that we're still remaining competitive with the market. And so what you're going to get here is some of the results that we've gotten from them. We have a full report as well that we can share with you at some point as well, but I'm just going to go over the highlights for tonight. So a couple of things that they gave back to us first is they gave us kind of an overview of our teacher demographics, and basically the average years of experience for our teachers are 11 plus years, a little bit over 11, and that's what actually is like the state average. The state average is about 11 years as well, so we're kind of right there in terms of our teacher experiences. Here are our market comparison districts. And so if you want to see who we compared or who TASB compared us to in terms of trying to analyze our pay structures, these are the ones that are listed here, and you can look at their student enrollment sizes as well. Now, one district that didn't participate, obviously, in the survey or the salary analysis is our neighbors up the street, Mac ISD. And then they also used the TASB salary analysis for teachers, but then they also used other pay scales like pay factors and comp analysis to look at other markets outside of education. All right, here are our teacher market salaries for 2024 and 2025, and you can look at where we were compared to the median last year. So take a look at that really quickly, and then I'm going to flip over to 25-26 so that you can see how we've closed that gap. So that's 24-25. Here's where we were this year. Look at that bottom number in terms of the difference from market. And this is thanks to all of your efforts and thanks to the board for your approval of getting our teachers where they need to be. So we're narrowing that gap. We're not quite where we want to be just yet, but we're getting close.
Will you go back to the other slide now that I've digested that?
Absolutely. Look at our 20-year experienced teachers. Look at that gap is now only $863, where at first it was about $4,000.
And that doesn't take into account all the stipends and the critical needs stipends.
Correct.
Correct. That's just the step
That's basic.
salary.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Wait, go back to the.
Here's where we are now.
We're close.
We're getting there.
Close.
Absolutely.
Here we are.
Absolutely. Hopefully we'll get even closer after tonight.
That's pre.
This is pre before whatever we're about to recommend. Here's the market graph. And you can imagine that was a little wider last year. All right, here's something else I want you to, here's the stipend list real quick. I'll come back to that in a minute. But look at the other pay groups. There are two in particular that I want you to take a look at. Mr. Caesar, I know a few of you, including you, were kind of leading this charge a couple of years ago, making sure that our auxiliary staff were getting paid competitively. Look at where we were in 24-25. Now check this out.
Wow, great. That is good.
Again. And here's where we are. And this was again.
This is this
25,
year.
26. It's not what we're about to propose.
That's awesome.
Makes me smile.
All right, so now we're down to recommendations. So here's what they recommended, and we agree with several of these. Obviously, we are adjusting our compensation plan to improve starting salaries across the board. You should see that reflected in the packet that's in your board packet. Making sure that all of our midpoints are still aligned with the market, because again, it's part of a maintenance plan. So now this year they're going back, they revisit, reanalyze, and make sure that ours is along or matches what the market is actually suggesting we should be at. And then adjusting pay grade placement of identified positions. Those are specific positions, and I have all of those should you want them. I'm happy to share those with you as well. Recommendation 2, here's the big one, okay? This is what we're recommending on top of what y'all did last year, is an additional 3%. And what this means is we'd like to adopt the 3% model. So for teachers, what that means is that they would get 3% above the market median for teachers. So every teacher will get at least $1,900, okay? For everybody else who are not on the teacher pay scale, they will get at least 3% above midpoint for their pay grade. Okay? So again, that's going to vary depending upon what pay grade structure that they're in. But that's what we're proposing tonight. And just so you know what that will cost us, it's going to be about $2.4 million total. Okay? But let me also show you what that 2.4 would also include. Look here in the middle, these additional adjustments, administrative professional. One of the things that we've really been talking about is not, is reinstituting our career ladders, right? So we had a lot of discussion, and Ms. Gay, I know we talked about this a lot last year, that, you know, we're not where we need to be. We found some issues that came about with the overhaul of the compensation plan, some unintended consequences, especially with TRE and those types of things. And so one of the things that we noticed that it was kind of cutting out our career ladders, right? For example, our APs and our counselors and our instructional coaches, all of those people who had gone back to get their master's degree, some of them perhaps were not making as much as they possibly could make if they were in the classroom. Now we know that was the intent of the policy, is to try to keep as many people in the classroom as possible. However, we also recognize, too, that we have people who went to get those degrees, right? And now they're working perhaps with less money. So we went back and asked HASB, hey, what do we do about this? And obviously they told us that, hey, this is a problem across the state. And so here was their recommendation. And so we would ask that you adopt this equity adjustment that they proposed to us that would allow us to compensate them at least in an equitable way. Obviously, it's still not going to be where we need it to be in terms of competing with the market, you know, at the top of the scale. But it'll help us hopefully make some strides over this next year or two.
So, does this mean, like when I listened, and tell me if I'm off base, is that instead of like every person at every different salary level getting 3% of what they make, everybody gets the same increase for the category that they find themselves in.
Bingo.
So if I'm in this category, this number of days of work per school year and all of that, they would all get an equitable raise in pay regardless of what percentage of their pay it is.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
I've heard of another district where I know someone that works at a different district in the area. They did the same thing, and that's why I'm going, okay, this is what they told me about, because it was something new to me to hear about that. But so this is the second time.
And that is
I've heard
common
it,
practice.
so.
That's the best way to keep your salaries competitive. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, did you have something?
No.
Okay. And so another thing that we have not done yet that we're still working toward as well, although we're getting people into those placement areas, the midpoint helps us to get more of them, or giving raises to the midpoint.
gives us the opportunity to get more of them within that range quicker, but we still have to do equity adjustments at some point, right? So at some point, we will discuss that as well, but at least this gives us the biggest bang for our buck.
Right. So when we say 3%, we're just saying in general.
And we want to be clear, it's a 3% model, right? So
Model,
teachers,
right.
3% above the market median for teachers. So
Right.
everybody at least $1,900 for teachers. And then everybody else, it's 3% of the midpoint of their pay grade. Right? Because what we also had, and we learned from this in our communication last year, is there was an assumption that I was just going to get 3% of my salary, right? And that's not how it works. All right, the additional recommendations are some of the stuff that I already included: the teacher pay equity adjustments, upgrade adjustment, placement scale adjustment. Also, as part of this, the increase to 1% above the minimum. So once we move these placement scales, so to speak, there will be some people that fall outside of that pay grade now, right? And so what TASB will typically do is say, okay, we need to at least get people within the pay grade. I mentioned before that everybody's not where they should be yet. Our hope is to get them there, but at the very minimum, we want people to be within the grade, right? So that increase to 1% above the minimum is something that you will see reflected in this second column here. So some of these adjustments that you see for all of these positions, it's ensuring that everybody is at least 1% above the minimum for their pay grade.
And we did that last year.
We did, but remember now it's moved up, right? So the scales have moved up.
Okay.
To compete with the market or to stay consistent.
Our grades are shifting upward again 2 years in a row, which is a sign of a very healthy pay structure when you're able to do that. And that's how we're able to move toward where the market is at a faster rate. It's not just an increase, we are increasing the entire structure. So you're hiring in or you're within to a pay structure that was higher than the year before.
Another thing that we noticed too, in the adoption, we had eliminated our security guard levels because you can get a level 1, level 2, a level 3 certification. And so we didn't account for that. So we asked TASB to put that back in. And so basically for every level that a security guard gets, they get an additional $1 per hour for those levels. We only have 2 security guards. So. But it's like a way for them to be promoted.
Oh, just 2, okay, I didn't need the numbers yet, okay.
Are they both at the high school?
Yes. So actually, no. We have 3. We have 1 at the high school and 1 at the middle school. So it's 2. It's 2.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, and then additionally, we would like to bump up our stipends to be more competitive. We have lots of vacancies in our SPED department, and so we want to increase our SPED resource stipend from $2,000 to $3,000. And to adjust our SPED self-contained stipend from $3,000 to $5,000. And those are my recommendations.
Wait, can you go back to the SPED?
I hear Miss Castle, I think. Is that her clapping?
Good thing. So the first one is for the teachers that are not self-contained, or is it anybody
Correct.
in the SPED department? Okay.
SPED resource. And here's our stipend structure right here.
Is that the
Did I
green and
miss
white
it?
sheet?
Right here.
I think the one they did this last year.
Oh, okay.
I think Matt did this last year. They didn't put a date on it.
This is later. Or that's-
Huh?
Oh, it's later.
Oh,
Sorry.
That's not in
Again, hopefully I gave you an overview of all the work that you've done to help get us to where we are, and I hope that you can approve tonight to continue to make us to be the district of choice.
Okay, any other questions for Dr. Stock? Thank you for your hard work on that. And I
It's a
just
team
want to,
effort, everybody included, and I mean everybody.
so I just want to say this, and it's largely all school people that are in the room, in the audience, but one of the things I think it's important to note here is we just finished a lot of hard work trying to educate our community about M&O and INS. And in the previous, on item number 12, we just were able to spend almost $3 million out of the INS side. And I was at times somewhat disappointed. We have about 1,200 school employees, and the apathy in voters, that includes all of our public, but also to be included our school staff, and just how important it is that they understand, whenever we're able to, healthy school districts that are at the top of the pay scales, they're continuing to pass bonds every 4 to 5 years. And so when we're not spending $3 million on buses, we can spend it on our people. And so, our school people get to vote. They're allowed to vote. And so it's just important that they use that ability to vote, and that they're educated about that, because these are the hard work that was done to pass the bond. This is, these are kind of some of the consequences or some of the results from being able to do those things. So, no more questions for Dr. Spikes, and I'll entertain a motion.
I also want to highlight Ms. Lee, who's here, our HR director, who did
Yes.
a lot of heavy lifting. So
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Lee.
I have a question. Is all of this stuff built into the proposed budget already?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome.
That's a good question.
Thank you. Sometimes I have some.
I move to approve the compensation plan as presented.
Second.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion to second. All those in favor respond with aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously, and that is, thank you for all that.
And that's fine. That coupled with the budget, that's fine.
So I've seen people doing 3%, but they're passing deficit budgets, and so that's important to know, and appreciate everyone's hard work. So let's go to item number 14, discussion of possible approval of the 2026-27 Lufkin ISD district budget. Mr. Weddington.
Yes, we are bringing forth the proposed budget for 26-27 as is outlined in the public hearing earlier this meeting for your consideration and approval. And as we stated, the compensation increase is included in this budget.
Move to approve. Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor respond with aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously as well, and thanks again for all the hard work working on the budget. We'll move to item number 15, discussion of possible board action to amend the 25-26 Lufkin ISD district budget. Again, Mr. Weddington.
On pages 151 through 153, we are bringing to you the final amended budget for 25-26 school year. There's no changes to the net bottom dollar as far as the overall revenues and expenses, but we are going to be increasing our revenues and our expenses by a little over 1.9 million to account for the increase in our teacher incentive allotment this year based on the new teachers that have been designated, as well as some accounting entries for our lease and software assets we've got booked this year.
Move to approve.
Any questions? Okay, we have a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor respond with aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously as well. We move to item number 16, discussion and possible board action to form a subcommittee to review RFQs and RFPs related to bond 2026 propositions A and B in accordance with BDD locals. Dr. Hockenberry.
On page 155 in the board book, there is a document there, but per board policy BDD local, as we begin to evaluate and consider RFQs and RFPs related to the construction of our projects within the bond programs. Recommended that a board subcommittee be formed by per policy so that we can begin that work as early as the week of July 6th. Probably need to name no more than 3. So we need 3 people.
We've already been in discussion. I feel like with their accounting background, both of the ladies here on the end, Ms. Gay and Ms. Moore, will be good members on this subcommittee. And so we're going to have a ton of committees. And the committee work along the subcommittee of the board and the community committees with the different design phases. A lot of fun stuff over the next 18 to 36 months, however long it is in the design phase. And so everyone's going to have plenty of opportunities to committee committee up, and so, I'm asking those two ladies to serve on that, they agreed to do that, so. I'll entertain a motion, to approve the formation of a board subcommittee to review RFQs and RFPs related to bond 2026, Props A and B in accordance with board local policy BDB. So, got a motion?
And to include Matt and Melinda and Christie in the motion, correct?
Yes, Ms. Gates, Ms. Moore. That's in the motion as well. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor respond with aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously as well. Action item number 17, discussion and possible board action regarding TASB policy update 127.
All right,
affecting
so-
legal and local policies.
I know that.
This is a strange question before you
Yes,
start.
sir.
So there's been no, and I've been on the board for, I don't know, almost 10 years. There's been no legislation. Nobody's been in Austin doing anything.
Exactly. This is more about alignment more than anything, making sure that the policies are aligned.
So this just has to be 18 months later,
Something to
so
keep-
you know what?
Mhm.
Okay.
We need to
Or
delete a word
protect
here and
that.
there, that kind of thing. Yeah,
Recent
so.
legislation that was a year ago.
Okay.
So, yeah, you're right. No legislative session. So these are going to be kind of minor additions. It will reflect some of the changes in the law that were not caught in Update 126, I believe, that got most of the legislative updates into our policies. But this one obviously catches a few of those that were missed, and then just some minor things as well. So I'll try to be brief. Obviously, you know that it's your responsibility as a board to adopt local policy. Legal policy does not need adoption, so I'm just going to go over the local revisions that were made. So BJCF, basically it says it recommends a revisions to this local policy on the non-renewal of a superintendent to align with language at DFBB local. Again, back to alignment, right? They did add 2 additional non-renewal reasons as a result of, again, Update 126 from Senate Bill 12. So review those so that you know what those 2 things are and which a superintendent can be non-renewed. CAA, cross-reference in the note, has basically been updated to reflect changes to the DH series of policy, and it's basically just a cross out to, I think, from DH to DHA now, because their DH was split into 2 different policies, DHA and DHB. Here, DC local, the addition here is they're basically saying that you no longer need to have superintendent and designee in your policies. So they're going through all the policies through TASB to eliminate the word designee, because BGA actually gives the superintendent the authority to designate someone, and he's still responsible for the output or the product. And so they're deleting all of those policies that have designee in them. So DC is one of those policies. DH exhibit, it's been revised to reflect changes to the DH series. So basically there is no DH exhibit that contains the educator code of conducts or code of ethics anymore. It's actually in DH legal, and so now they're crossing off the reference for DH exhibit because you can find it in DH legal. Here, theme here, you hear the theme? Yeah. All right, so DJ local, they're recommending deleting this policy because they say that this should be in administrative regulations. Yes, DJ local. That wasn't included, I don't think, in your packet, but it's because we're eliminating it, but it's still gonna require your approval. DP, this one again, this is the policy that was split from DP, or this is one of the ones that was split from DP to now DPA and DPB. DPA specifically for principals and DPB for all other personnel. And I think they changed some language around counselors and those types of things. Also, they wanted to make sure that the job descriptions or requirements for principals and so forth better align with some of the TASB job description recommendations. So here it is right here. DPA, so we went from DP now to split DPA and DPB. So we'd be adopting DPA and DPB and eliminating DP.
But then we have 2 DPAs listed here.
Say that again?
There's 2 DPAs listed here.
Yeah, it shouldn't be. It should only be DPA local that you, is it
Oh, one
DPA
is
legal?
legal and one is
Yeah,
local.
so
I'm
legal,
sorry.
yeah, you don't have to adopt.
That's right.
EHBB now basically is, they want to make sure that it aligns with new law or new policy as it relates to Texas Administrative Code 89.1 in terms of its identification criteria where students identify for special programs. And it's specific in terms of what you can no longer consider for special programs. So the language should be in your packet. FFF, misconduct, the definition has been reformatted to improve readability, but also there's some additional terms or some additional things that now constitute misconduct. Questions? Okay, I move that you, if you would, please approve these local adoptions so that I could contact our policy consultant and update your board book.
Question.
Yes.
On EHBB local special programs, gifted and talented students, what is what?
You can no longer use race, social class, and some other things to identify
Okay.
as a result of Texas Administrative Code 89.1.
Okay.
I've got a question on the purchasing authority. I know that that's tied to state statute. It was approved from like a $50,000 threshold to the $100,000 threshold, I think.
That's a different item. It's not that's part
It's
of this
not in this
update.
No, we got
Okay, sorry.
And Dr. Hockenberry is going to have to make a suggestion about that.
Okay.
I just kept scrolling.
Any other
Sorry, there's a lot of
questions?
papers over here. On my desk in my lap.
All right, any other discussion?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve, attaching policy updates 127 affecting legal and local policies. All those in favor, respond with aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously as well. We'll go to item number 18, discussion of possible action regarding local changes to board policy CH local purchasing and acquisition.
Mr. President, after closer review of that policy, I would recommend no action and leave the policy as written.
Thank you.
All right, we'll now move to item number 19, discussion of possible board approval of the 2026-2027 student code of conduct. Dr. Fox.
Mr. Knight, as you mentioned, there was no legislative session, so there were no substantial updates to our student code of conduct. You do have to approve it every year, so it was minor cosmetic changes like formatting and those types of things. So no substantial changes to our student code of conduct. But I would need your approval so that we can get it posted for this upcoming school year.
Move to approve. Second.
Okay, any questions? You want to have, okay, so we have a motion and a second. Possible board approval of 2026-27 student code of conduct. All those in favor, respond with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, that carries unanimously as well. We have no need for a closed session. I kind of feel bad. I was thinking this was a 2-hour meeting. I maybe oversold it. Yeah, I was doing good. And so I will remind everyone that in July, starting in July, we'll move back to our work sessions on Monday night. We'll start that again in July. And so, we'll have the opportunity to go into more depth, in depth on some of the, more tedious items on Mondays. And so we'll go back to the way we've done it before. We'll move to, item 22, board request for new information annual reports.
Enrollment for, ACE. Do we know like what the numbers are gonna be for next year and for the, and Hackney?
Hackney.
Both. I didn't
The
know.
Learning Center?
Yeah, the Learning Center. I didn't know if we had numbers yet for next year. We had such good graduating numbers. I
We
was
did,
hoping
but
we were-
we still have more.
Okay,
We
okay.
are, we're at physics, a lot, 120 something enrolled when we ended the year. And we're graduating and continuing to enroll. We're filled, we're full.
Okay.
So we have to graduate to add more.
Right, no.
So yes, so that's,
And I knew like also like didn't the daycare have some like waiting or we were trying to do some little expansion there or something? I didn't know if that enrollment was.
it's pretty full, so
Okay.
we're the number's still based on the age and the ratio you have to have based on all that. So I don't have that exactly because of and the new hires who have children, and so there's a lot still to sort out on the exact numbers for next year because more are enrolling and needing space as we speak.
It's been very successful
Yes,
this year.
those
They
two
have
things have
stayed
been-
full and
Right,
continue to be that way.
remarkable.
I would like to make just a general comment, not a request, but this is my 11th year on the school board, and what I would like to do is thank our technology people for all of the months that it's worked perfectly. So thank you for what you do. This is when we really appreciate how hard you work, because sometimes it doesn't, and we all understand that. But I'm just grateful for how hard y'all work and how diligent you are and how much you care about getting information to us correctly. We appreciate that.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Hey, we will adjourn. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.